Dan got tricks in the tank, taking a bet, stealing a groundhog. If there's trouble, they ain't gonna back off. Jeb and Dan fishing again, tangled lines and a pocket full of sand.
Growing up, Jeb and Dan were known for their antics, to which most are rumored, but were not proven. This made them feel untouchable, leading them to do more shenanigans. Now, Jeb and Dan peeved a lot of people off growing up and made some arch enemies on the way. This is the beginning of one of their longtime rivals. One hot summer back in the early 70s, these two mischief makers were riding their bikes back from catching minnows at their fishing hole. An old Folgers coffee can was used as their minnow bucket in hopes to have enough minnows for their planned sneaky night excursion to Old Man Ralphie's, off limits, small lake for blue cats and channel cats. To get the minnows, they were using Grasshopper, alternating between spinner and softbait to turn these small, mid-depth, and bottom fish green on the fish finder. On the long way home in the sweltering heat, they stop at the Marksman Inn to rest and get a cool drink. After they parked their bikes, Jeb covered his can of minnows with a towel he carried, and Dan didn't. The boys entered and ordered a burger and drink with money they had from allowance and soda bottle returns. During the meal, the owner said they got stuffed by someone who had called in order of 6 extra thick chocolate milkshakes. The people didn't come, and the milkshakes were melting slowly. The owner made an offer to the boys. If they would buy one, they would get another free. Jeb had quick wit and replied, "We will buy 2 and get 4 free, or you can keep them, because in about 30 minutes, you will have chocolate milk, or you're going to toss them out and lose money." The deal was made. Those two had 3 milkshakes each, filled by wedging them between their body and folded arm, with the metal coffee can held in their hands by homemade wire handle. Trying to ride the bikes one-handed was difficult enough in the heat, but the milkshakes were freezing their arms. Dan had an extra problem. His metal coffee can was super hot by not being covered and was cooking his minnows. To ride the bikes one-handed was difficult enough in the heat, but the milkshakes were freezing their arms. After pedaling 7 blocks, Jeb said, "Dan, I have to get rid of some of these milkshakes. My arm is freezing off." Dan replied, "Mine too, and my hand is burning from this can. We need to unload some of this junk, and quick." The two looked up the street and then to each other. Both began a sinister smirk and smile. Up the street was the house of a kid they knew named Canuck, Garrod. Garrod's family moved in last year after his father retired from the Canadian Mounties. Old Garrod always bragged that he was going to be a policeman like his dad. Also, one day when he gets his driver's license, his father is giving him their car. A red in color, white leather interior, convertible 1970 Dodge Challenger. The boys began pedaling faster and went past the top-down convertible that was parked on the side of the street. They were now holding only 1 milkshake apiece. Jeb looked at Dan and asked, "Where's your can of miners?" Dan replied, "That darn can was hot from the sun and heat. It cooked my minnows, and they're dead. So I found a place to get rid of them shakes, can and all. Heard they went north this weekend, and won't be back until Monday. That smell will never come out." Garrod returned Monday to find the white interior of his future car plastered with baked chocolate milkshake and the pronounced smell of dead, cooked minnows. With speculation, Garrod was pretty sure who did it and vowed to get them one day after he would graduate from the police academy. This was the start of the all-time rival. Just saying.
Jeb and Dan fishing again.
Hey, fishing fans. How about the Jeb and Dan? I would be so pissed if I found my car covered in milkshakes and minnows. Anyway, let's check out the fishing part. To get the minnows, they were using Grasshopper, alternating between spinner and softbait to turn these small mid-depth and bottom fish green on the fish finder. So let's find some minnows. I happen to know, there we go, that we can find some minnows in Japan, free. I think we can find them on several maps, but I know for sure map 5. Let's go there. So I guess we have a couple things to try. Spinner and softbait. Well, I guess we'll try that first, and then Grasshopper. So when he says spinner and softbait, let's go to normal. We'll change to lure fishing, and we need to change to a spinner. Okay, so we're going to look for a small fish. Small look like the bluegill or a panfish. That means small fish. We have a small one on the bottom here. We have a yellow one in mid-depth over here, but we're after a small one, and it needs to be green on spinner, and it needs to be green on soft bait, which this one is. So now we need to decide, are we going to use spinner or soft bait to catch it? Well, soft bait has a lot of green fish here at the top. They're not really around it, so we probably could use that. But if we switch to spinner, all the fish around it, except for that fish, are yellow or red, which means that our fish is going to come after it the hardest. So this is probably the best bet between the two. And let's let it sink. See, if I would have landed it there with a green fish, it would have come after that bait like nobody's business. But there I can just kind of sink it right past him. Get it to the bottom. And let's see if the legendary Al Williams comes through and we have a minnow. We do. We have a minnow. All right, so let's check the second part of the thing, and it says Grasshopper. Again, middle to bottom, it's minnow. So let's switch over to float fishing, and we're going to switch over to a Grasshopper or cricket, if some of you prefer. It looks like we don't have any more fish we have one small fish that's down here, but it's red on Grasshopper, so we're going to reset. Now, resetting is all you have to do is change your difficulty. Every time you change the difficulty, it respawns the fish in the entire map. So if you've heard the term reset before, you didn't know what it meant, that's what it means. So we have no fish here that we're looking for, which is the green middle to bottom on a Grasshopper, which is a minnow. So we're going to reset again. And this is basically fish targeting, right? So we know what this fish likes. We know it's going to be green on these things. We know it's going to be small, and it's the only one that's going to be small. Small fish, middle to bottom, that's going to be green on a Grasshopper in this map. So now we can target it and catch only that fish. But we're not getting any, so we just respawn until we see one. We see a green medium-sized fish up here, and again the small red fish in the middle, but not the fish we're looking for. Again, not the fish we're looking for. Let's see if we can get one. Nope. And sometimes, there are a lot of fish that can spawn. We have one down here. Let's put it on the long line. So we're getting the bottom. And let's cast. Let's let it sink and catch a fish. I guess we need to pull a little bit closer. Not the best cast on my part, admittedly. But we can make it work. And we should have a minnow. The man, the myth, the legend, Al Williams comes through again. Thanks, Al, and thanks for the great stories about Jeb and Dan. And makes me sick to my stomach to think about that. Those milkshakes and minnows in the car. I would not want to touch that car. And there's just, you can't get that smell out. You can't get that smell out. Tight lines, everyone.
Out on the water or pulling a prank, Jeb and Dan got tricks in the tank, taking a